Welcome to Rooted and Divine with me, Katelyn Paine, a podcast for women ready to shed old identities, heal, and align with their soul. Each week, we'll explore spiritual growth, healing, and personal stories that empower you to embody your truth. Rooted in humanity and fully alive as a divine soul. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to bring on this powerhouse of a woman on today. Her name is Natalia Rose. She is the world's leading expert in deep tissue cleansing. To really get the most out of this episode, I just want you to take a few deep breaths into your belly and into the heart and center yourself. And try to not enter this conversation with this predetermined, oh, this is reality, this is how food works, this is how it functions, because I've been told by X amount of people who have X amount of degrees or letters behind their name. Natalia is a true wisdom keeper and a light code keeper of the body as an expression of our I am presence or our light bodies. And so what we speak about today isn't about converting to, hey, let's all just become keto or paleo, or let's all start counting our macros, or let's intuitively eat. She really, to get the most out of this conversation, you need to put aside what you think is true about food and be okay with learning something new. So in this conversation, just whatever feels true, rings true for you, let it be true. And whatever isn't ringing true for you, just put it on the shelf. You don't need to go any further. Food is one of the biggest ways that we stay trapped in certain mindsets, trapped in certain densities or illusions or distortions of reality. And food can be so painful. And trust me, I have been there. Like, you guys, I have been there. So much so, I mean, my whole upbringing was about food and physical excellence. Like, I get the pain that comes from wanting to be physically, like, elite and fit, and feeling like that is your entry point to God or to being accepted or to being valued or to being loved. And so just really acknowledge the amount of brainwashing and control that food and the whole food and wellness world has had on us. And to enter in this conversation, we need to up-level our consciousness and expand our consciousness. So just take a few deep breaths and get into your center. And know that you are sovereign, and know that you can make you are the one who is meant to make all the choices. And take the fruit, leave the peel. If something feels sticky and yucky, then don't listen to it. But I really wanted to preface that because I know how triggering food and food conversations can be. But I also know the huge impact that even one gold nugget of information that Natalia has for you can literally change your life. So with that being said, here's Natalia. She writes, Natalia is the world's leading expert in deep tissue cleansing, the process of removing accumulated acidic matter locked deep in the body's cells and tissues. Her globally renowned one-of-a-kind method imparts physical excellence to her clients and then builds upon that achievement, leading them to higher states of consciousness. The foundation of cleansing the body is a stepping stone to healing the whole being, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, and spiritually. With a cleansed body, mind, and spirit, and a restored connection to their soul source, Natalia's clients have the opportunity to transcend the norms and limits of societal expectations of life and become fully self-realized. Natalia Rose is a graduate of the New York University and a clinical nutritionist. And she's written several incredible books, which you can find on anywhere you find books. And I will link those in the description below, as well as her website. And I just cannot wait. Natalia and I could have talked for 6 hours. There's so much to learn, but I can't wait for you guys to listen. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Natalia Rose, it is a true honor and a gift to have you on this Rooted in Divine podcast. I cannot. You are such a force to be reckoned with, and I admire you so much in the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for choosing to be here.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here with you, Katelyn, and I'm delighted to have this conversation.
I just want to get right into it because I feel like there's so many things that we can talk about, and I want to have time to just at least like paint a full picture for our listeners. Can you just start out with telling us about you and your work and what it is, like what is the thing that you're here to offer to the world, and we'll go from there.
Okay. As I would put it today, as opposed to yesterday, or even a month ago, we are divine beings. We are source. We don't just come from source. We are source. We're just in this avatar construct, and this avatar construct should resonate with the same frequency of source, and that's how we were designed to be. We weren't designed to be like, let's say, spiritual on the inside, but hardened on the outside. We were meant to be one fluid avatar being made of that spiritual substance, that source substance, the I am presence. There's a term that the esoteric Christians use, which is the pleroma, like the wholeness, the fullness. The fullness is what they actually call it. So we are that fullness here, but something happened along the way, and something started to get in and kind of poison and constrict and create kind of control and caging, and that disconnected us from our sense of truth, which caused us to harden. Let's say, we'll use that term loosely, to densify, to to lose that light. And when I talk about light, I know light is used often in the New Age community. That's not how I'm using light. I don't mean this so superficial love and light. Let's think happy thoughts and everything will be okay. That's actually rubbish. So it's about the actual legitimate source of light, which is consciousness. So we can use the terms light, consciousness, energy, power synonymously. They're all the same thing. When we stop using them synonymously, we have a problem. We have the disconnection. So what we need to come back to is that sense of truth, that sense of the true self, the true beingness. And we are individuated in that way. We all have a unique signature, a unique, let's say, song. If we are each a flower, we have a unique scent, unique fragrance. But we come from the same source, and we have the same qualities in the sense that we're made of this pleroma-like supreme light substance. So when we come back to what we truly are and we anchor in on that, that's what I call on the y-axis. It's the vertical axis, whereas I'm going to introduce a new term in this conversation, which you know very well, which is the matrix. And that is X consciousness. That's the horizontal plane. And if you think about it, caterpillar is stuck on the horizontal plane, becomes a butterfly. It's now free to fly and can go vertically. So the highest virtues, aligning the highest virtues in our lives, bring us onto the vertical plane on the y-axis. That's why I actually don't even like to do XOXO, because X to me is kind of like, it's, I don't want to be an X. And, Xmas, they cut out the Christ and leave, so there's a lot of Xing that going on that it's a bit suspicious. But in any case, we want to align and embody. And once we've aligned and embodied, we can become enlightened. And that's, it's the restoration of power. It's the retrieval of power. And power, now we've just used that word before, we know is consciousness, is the supreme light, is energy. It's not like power over anyone. It's our, and when we have our own power, we don't want to take power from anyone. We don't need their power. You keep your power. I want to help you. Like, for the world out there, it's like we want to empower others to have their own power. And a person of power will never manipulate, will never even try to, stoke their own ego with someone else's power. A teacher in its own power is not going to say something to a student to make himself feel better or herself feel like more.
Mhm.
A partner is never going to even in any way cut their partner down in order to get some power, because in a healthy relationship, both parties have enough power and both parties want to help each other have the power. So what we're doing with the cleansing is we're restoring the power, because the
Mm.
power, which is energy and consciousness, was lost. So if we bring it back, our consciousness ascends and our power comes back. And there are 5 ways I like to, it's a good illustration of the 5 ways that we disconnect from power, from our source, from the supreme light. The first way is obstruction. So that which we'll use the body right now, we'll talk about it on a physiological level. So there's the obstruction in the body that will prevent the flow of this source, force, flow, supreme light. And so that's like the circuitry of our body, which is meant to run on that light. It gets obstructed. Now, dense foods that come into the body, which happens from day one, the acidic foods will create this accumulation, and that creates the obstruction. Then we have what I call the cut threads. So think of your body and nature all being these interconnected threads of life, kind of like you would see in Avatar on Pandora. And there's all these true threads of life, and they extend as far as creation extends. But imagine they've been like someone took a giant scissors and started cutting away at them. And so you've lost power that way, because you're not getting that conductivity anymore from all that circuitry. And that can happen just from, getting a tomato that's been in a carton for weeks and then put on a grocery shelf, and, thinking that that's going to give you life. I mean, I'm not saying don't eat tomatoes. I love tomatoes. They're actually my favorite food. But, to get a tomato, to be able to walk into your garden and have a garden that's like, I don't know, anyone's read the Anastasia series, they'll know I'm talking about. This garden that is created by your own love and your own, you sow the seeds. In fact, in the Anastasia books, which are fabulous, I recommend them highly. They even take the seed and put it into the mouth so that the seed can register what the being needs, so that when the fruit comes forth, it has all of that in it, which is fascinating. But that's threads that aren't cut, or being able to look up at the stars and know the stars. And imagine inside our body when there's obstruction and when there are cut threads. So anytime we undergo surgery and there's cutting involved, and that scar tissue that remains, it's weaker tissue than normal non-scar tissue.
Mm.
There's so many ways that threads are cut. They're cut from our organs deteriorating. They're cut from our bones deteriorating. So all this connection is lost. That's number 2. Number 3 is tangled threads. Tangled threads happen when there's too much chaos, when whether it's in the soil, or it's in the being, or it's in the chaos of how someone's eating their food, or the madness of how we consume. That you can think of as tangled threads. It's one idea. And then we have impact. Impact is when we experience shock. So when we experience shock, or there's this impact, if we experience emotional shock or we experience physical shock, we're going to lose consciousness. We'll be concussed, energetically concussed or physiologically concussed. So the footballer is running along the line, and I'm being good for football terminology. It's not my sport, but they get taken down, they get concussed. Immediately the energy leaves them. So we've undergone so much shock as a collective. And of course, individually, when we think about our lives, we recapitulate our history. There were emotional shocks, and there were probably, for a lot of us, accidents that created physical shock. So that impact is another way that we lose energy, we lose our connection to power. And then the final way is incoherence. That is through all of the disharmony, all of the dissonance in our surroundings and within, because our emotions create dissonance, dysfunctional emotions create dissonance. And then, of course, all the radiation in our fields, all the toxic music, the toxic entertainment at large, it's all incoherent vibrations. It's incoherent frequencies. And that distorts our field, and it prevents us from getting a clear signal. So those are the 5 main ways: cut threads, obstruction, tangled threads, impact, and incoherence, that we have been losing our connection to power source, supreme light consciousness. And that leads the physiological body to deteriorate, but it also causes the spiritual connection to deteriorate, and they happen together. But they're also repaired
Mhm.
together, which is the beauty of it.
Yeah, last year when I found you, I had when I in my mind's eye, when I would look at the weight that I was holding on my body, I didn't look at it as like, "Oh, this is weight." I looked at it as obstruction. Like, when I could see it in my mind's eye, I was like, "I feel like I am carrying, like, the toxicity and the weight of the world." And inherently, I knew that I couldn't I couldn't connect to light, God's source in the way that I wanted to, and the way that my soul longed to when I held that weight onto me. And it wasn't a, "Oh my, I just wanna, like, get skinny to be skinny." It was like, "No, I want my avatar being I want my human body to be a conduit, and to be." I love that you painted that picture and of ways that we can lose our power. And that's been my experience of working with you and doing, um which, the cleansing lifestyle has been like, I have regained so much power. My ability to hold my frequency, to hold my energy, my consciousness, my has expanded exponentially. And it's been the most beautiful symbiotic relationship with my body and my spirit, and just my whole relationship to life has changed. So explain to people what the physiological part. So what does this look like? What are the basics of this that you teach?
Okay, so the simplest formula is awaken plus release equals cleansing.
Mhm.
If you get that, you get it all. Like
Mhm.
they have to apply it, obviously, but that is the magical formula. So we have to this obstruction, this what that interference you felt between spirit and yourself that came in the form of obstruction, that is matter. That's accumulated toxic waste matter. So when we take things into the body that was never meant for the human body, that isn't of a light frequency, that is going to get stuck in the body because the nature of the body being alkaline, which is negatively ionically charged, and the substances that we're consuming, which are positively ionically charged, which are acidic. So we don't want acidic things in the body. We only want alkaline things. Alkaline is electrons, and the acidity is a positive ionic charge. So positive in this case is negative, and negative in this case is positive. Just clarify, electrons have a negative ionic charge. Our human body healthy tissue is negatively ionically charged. So electrons, foods that are life generating, which are full of water and are full of life. So are basically raw fruits and vegetables. But fruits are a little bit of an issue because we become so yeasted and so acidic that I don't like to focus too much on fruits. Some people will still have some in the cleansing lifestyle because they can get away with it for various reasons. But let's focus on vegetables. Vegetables will come in, then they can be cooked. I'm not saying they have to be exclusively raw. There's a place for cooked food. We're not talking about becoming a raw foodist here, but the foods that don't stick in the tissue are either going to be alkaline or they're going to be neutral. They're not going to be acidic. Acidic foods will stick. And so when we have all this, that we have decades of accumulation of acidic waste matter, we're going to feel this obstruction. With what comes up as symptoms and weight, all of the things that people complain about, it's just the accumulation. It's the septicicity that's kind of growing in the body, not from a standpoint necessarily of needing to, not from necessarily a medical definition of septicicity. Although people do have to take a lot of antibiotics. Why? Because there's all these rogue pathogens running around. Why? Because the body is in what I would call a state of septicicity, even though it might not be the medical definition of it. Um, but that's the barrier between our true feeling, our true resonant frequency, and what now is blocking it, what's clogging it, what's suffocating it. You can think of it as all of these electrons, all this circuitry of life force energy being snuffed out. You can think of it as a garden that's been covered over by a landfill.
Mhm.
And so, how can the garden be the garden anymore? It can't. So we move the landfill off through cleansing, and we have the garden again, and that feels beautiful.
And one thing that you've taught a lot in the community is that the myth of that we just eat, digest, like we eat, digest, and we poop it out. That is not. Can you dive into that a little bit so people can
Mhm.
understand that over the course of your lifetime, you have an accumulated amount of waste in your body, and you've taught us that it goes into different parts. Like, you're like, when your face sags, it's not just that your skin gets saggy, like your body has to put your waste somewhere. So what is happening? Why are we not assimilating and digesting like everyone thinks that we do? That you just eat and you poop it out. What happens there?
Yeah, I love that question, Caitlin. So it
Okay.
really brings us to the core of how these things work. So I call it the invisible elephant in the room. This lie that we're told from day one that what we consume, what we eat, will be digested, assimilated, and eliminated. And that's
Mm,
actually a lie.
mm,
Some of it, a small portion of it will be, but if it's acidic, it's going to have a very low likelihood of ever leaving the body. People think, well, that's impossible. But the fact is that the way this happens is the colon is so large. The large intestine is large. It's 3 to 5 feet long, depending on how big the person is. And then, of course, the small intestine is super, super long. And you put the whole thing up, and it's much taller than you are. There's a lot of space there. But it's not just the center of the tube, let's say, of the intestine, it's the walls, very, very multitudinous layers and layers and layers of tissue around the alimentary canal. And so once the colon gets full in the first, say, 10 years of life, and the symptoms come up, and whether it's strep throat or acne that comes a little bit later, or headaches and the flus, all these things that we see in childhood illnesses, that's the body saying, we're getting full here. Like the colon's getting full of all this garbage, and it's proliferating pathogens. And that's seeping into the body at large, and that's contaminating the blood. And alarm bells start ringing in the form of these symptoms. And what do we do in our culture? We suppress him. Whether it's the fever that gets suppressed, or the headache that gets suppressed, or the cold that gets suppressed, or the suppression of, or the suppression of the pathogens through antibiotics, never looking at the core cause. And for some reason, it's kind of crazy, because I'm like one of 7 billion people in this world, and one of very, very few that even like realizes that all these problems are coming from the waste matter. And I can't get my head around that, because I think about these halls of academia and medicine that are just fills the brim with highly educated, brilliant minds, and nobody addresses this. And so I kind of just stay with the people who listen, because sometimes it gets a bit much trying to just declare it to the world every day. But it's like, guys, everyone's rearranging furniture in a house that's burning down, whether it's trying to address cancer from the medical angle, or diabetes, or bone loss, or hair loss, acne, any of the beauty things or the internal things. It's like almost no one can hear that or see it. It's
mm-hmm.
this the lie was the invisible elephant, but the truth also seems to be invisible. And that's
Yes. Yes.
if the more people can really sit with this idea, even though it's uncommon, it's unfamiliar, take some repetition, just to realize that those symptoms, whether they're happening to an 8-year-old or to an 80-year-old, are all coming from that waste matter, that accumulated waste matter. It's toxic. It stinks. It's not meant to be there. It's blocking the flow. And we're talking about blocking the flow. We're talking about blocking the flow of communication
Mm,
of the immune system. So why do we have autoimmune disease? Well, because the immune system can't communicate. So the whole network backfires. That's autoimmune disease. So when we see what this obstruction does, it is the biggest problem, and it's not something that we can fix by putting something from the outside into our body. And that's why, yes, I get excited about the dietetics of cleansing. They're really important. But cleansing without release of this waste matter, removal of this waste matter, is not cleansing. It's theoretical. Maybe something's going to happen, but it doesn't happen. So awaken plus release equals cleansing. Awaken does not equal cleansing. Release can't happen without awakening. So release doesn't equal cleansing. We have to
mm-hmm.
have both. But it's so easy, because it's like this really good news. Even though we poured all this concrete into the body from the first few decades of life, there's actually a method for removing it. And it's not taking some kind of supplement. It's
Some
not
type of
any,
binder.
oh my gosh, and
Yeah.
binders can make things worse.
Yes.
So it's about using the alkaline dietetics to loosen and lift the waste matter out of the cells and tissues very gently, lovingly, and then we irrigate the colon, which is dry and full of waste. It's the landfill over the garden. So nobody needs to be afraid of washing the good flora away, because anything good is under the landfill, is in the garden. So let's
Mm-hmm.
enable the garden to come forth. Number one, and also just as a side note, that good flora is not so delicate. you're not going to wash it away with water. It's like saying that, don't irrigate your garden out on your lawn because your flowers are going to start running down the street. It doesn't happen that way. The flowers love the water. The earth loves the water. Your soil, your earth is your tissue. Your human
Mhm.
tissue loves the water. It wants the water, and the body loves water. And once the water starts to get into the waste, it starts to help it move. And that really what happens in the cleansing process is the water saturates the waste matter, causing the waste matter to loosen. Once the colon has received the requisite quantity of water, it will start its muscular contractions, its peristalsis. Peristalsis will kick in, and that peristalsis will carry that loosened waste out of the body. Now, that's what we need colonics and enemas for, preferably colonics over enemas, but enemas will work. They just have to be the correct form of an enema. The properly administered colonic is even better because it will move so much more waste out, because colonic indicates a simultaneous flow. So the water's going in and the waste matter is leaving at the same time. So no one has to get up and down, and it's very seamless. So it's a very elegant process, if such
Mhm.
a thing can be said to be elegant. And then and then the enemas, we have to lie down, take the water in, get up, and then release it. And that can get a little bit tedious and messy, but it's still effective. It's just, degrees. Do you want to drive a Ford, or do you want to drive a Porsche? So that's the difference. But you're going to get there
Absolutely.
in any case. Nothing against sports, American made. We love that. So yeah, so basically, this is the process of getting that waste out, and the beauty of it is it's such good news because we're not stuck with it. It's not this story of, oh my gosh, the body's been filled with all this, and now we're going to have these symptoms, and we're stuck with all this waste. No, we can reverse it. And when I discovered that, I discovered viscerally at 25 years old, 25 years ago, how this transformed my life experience. I thought I just dropped everything else I was thinking I was going to do with my life and decided I had to share this. And if I could just get the word out to a few people, transform their lives, it would start to spread. And it did. I mean, the whole world doesn't seem to get it yet, but it has spread. It has spread enough. And there are some brilliant colon hydrotherapists that were with me from the beginning. That we had the same mentor, Gil Jacobs, and there's been this sort of tribe that's kept this the mysteries, let's say, of the cleansing work, and kept it intact, which is really special. But yeah, I think that's it. Was that the
Yeah.
answer to your question?
Yeah, yeah. I really wanted to just go back a little bit and just paint the picture a little bit more for someone who's like new, is that and Natalia, stop me if I'm wrong at any point. From what I've learned from you is that our tissues are alkaline when they are clean and clear. A natural tissue is alkaline. So when we're eating something acidic like meat, flesh, Natalia calls it flesh, and like processed foods, grains, when those go into the body and those are acidic, then an alkaline and acidic thing, they magnetize together. And so, and our bodies have an internal temperature of, I don't know, it's like you compared it to the desert one time. I can't remember what
Mhm,
that temperature
mhm.
was. And as we
Yeah,
eat those
98.6
things,
degrees.
yeah. So as we eat the acidic thing, our tissues are alkaline, so it magnetizes to each other, and then it basically bakes into our system, which is why we're not eliminating everything that we think we are. And when that happens, my understanding is that the body starts to be like, okay, the colon is getting really impacted. I don't have a lot more space for baked acidic foods. So I'm going to take a part of this and I'm going to put it in the belly, in the thighs, in the face. Is this correct?
Yes,
Okay.
beautifully explained. Let me see if I can fill in a little bit of that. So, yes, essentially, the body gets so clogged with this waste stuck in the tissue,
Mm-hmm.
as you described so well. Yes, the alkaline tissue and the acidic food, the acidity magnetizes basically the way to understand it from an even more technical perspective is that acidity, being positively ionically charged, has more protons in the nucleus of the atom than it has electrons on the outer belt of the atom. That's what makes it positively ionically charged and therefore acidic. Whereas the human tissue has more negatively ionically charged atoms, which have more electrons on the outer belt than they have protons in the nucleus. So we're talking about on a subatomic level, this is what's happening. That's why the magnetization happens. It's happening in the atomics of the body. So then you have this acidic waste matter that's magnetizing, attracted to, sticking like glue into the human tissue, and then at 98.6 degrees, baking, which is removing all the water it would possibly have in it, which causes it to embed deeper and deeper and deeper into the tissue. And when the tissue gets full, that tissue is going to spill, that waste is going to spill over and deepen. It's going to basically settle further into the body at large. So people think about like, this term gut health. For me, it's like such an eye roll because what happens is we're taught. I'm not going to like blame humans for this because we all kind of came in and got this really bad information, and everyone was doing it, and we kind of just caught on and did it too. But we got filled up with this waste, and we didn't understand that it was going to saturate our whole body. We probably wouldn't have eaten it to begin with, or would have fallen into it. But I had another thought there. I lost it. But yes. So okay. So basically, think of it as the waste matter kind of leaking into the body. Oh, I know I want to say. So the gut health thing. It's the body becomes one giant gut because it's not contained. This is what people need to really understand is once, or understand, I prefer that term, is once the colon gets full, this the waste pours in, the body is porous. It's not like, okay, it doesn't compartmentalize. Okay, the matrix compartmentalizes it, everything, and we have boxes for everything and things where everything goes, and this is for the colon and this is for the liver. It's not like that. The colon is porous. The walls of the colon are porous. The entire organism is porous. So when we fill the body with waste that was never supposed to be there to begin with, and the body does its best to adapt and deal with it, and it's amazing that we're still, we haven't extinguished ourselves yet, but this waste permeates the whole of the organism. So it migrates to the brain. Why do we have dementia? It migrates to all of the organs. It migrates, of course, to the face, and when the body wants to protect the essential organs, the vital organs, it's going to store this waste as far away from the organs as it can, because it's utilizing its intelligence. It's trying to do the right thing, but it doesn't always have a lot of options. But that's why we get, if there's fat storage, it's away from the vital organs for most people. Now, you can have somebody who is very thin and equally as toxic, but the waste and the toxicity is much more interconnected in the vital organs. So they are sick on a different level. So being thin is not the answer. You can have two people that have consumed the same quantity of waste matter, but the body deals with it differently. And it's still the equal amounts of dehydrated waste in there, but they weigh differently, which is kind of hard to get one's head around. But when you see somebody who is like, if you collect back fat or the fat under the arms or the double chin, and this is all the body trying to put this waste somewhere. And today the waste is so different. So there's the invisible elephant in the room, which is that we don't actually release what we or eliminate what we consume to the degree that we're told we do. And then there's also the second elephant in the room, which is the quantity of microplastics and metals and all these things that are in the food and the soil and the air and the water today that we didn't have when I started this 25 years ago, or even to the same degree, even 15 years ago. So we're dealing with something unprecedented on a massively compounded scale. It's the waste that's accumulating from day one is terrible. The makeup of it is so much worse. And then we have these additional elements, especially these microplastics, that are, they're just totally antithetical to anything that the body can cope with. And since we didn't have this before, we don't know the results of what that accumulation means. And so to even begin to, or even entertain the idea of taking supplements to help with your issues, whether it's hair loss or low energy, or whatever it is,
Mhm.
feeling like you want to bolster your organs, or is completely ludicrous, because the problem is, it would be like saying, you have a giant splinter in your finger and you're just going to put some, I don't know, some kind of cream on it to make it better. No, take the splinter
Yeah.
out. Or every like, people will put perfume on when they actually just needed to have a shower.
Mhm.
It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, there's some countries where that's quite prevalent. And, it's like let's clean it, let's remove the problem. Let's not try and cover it up. And then of course we see that in all sorts of areas. If a child is exhibiting some kind of behaviors that are not favorable to the community, well, let's just cover it up. Let's put this on it. Let's give them this drug. And we can see how it plays out, as above, so below. It's the same story on every level. And it's just suppression of truth. And eventually, when the truth is suppressed for so long, it's still truth. And it will
Mhm.
come up. It will come up in the form of something that doesn't look very nice, like
Mhm.
disease, like anger, like rage, like, is something that is, it seems to be more destructive, but it's really just, it, it's it's power that's been held down for too long. And so when it bursts through all those things that held it down, which were ugly because they suppressed truth, it's going to look ugly. But,
Mhm.
but we can save ourselves from a destructive explosion by gently removing this suppression. And as we remove the suppression, the degree to which we remove the suppression, the obstruction, the lies that we put into the body, is the degree to which we're going to immediately feel better and more joyous. Our life experience is going to change. So we don't have to do a year's worth of cleansing to experience that. Within the first few days of living the lifestyle and starting to get the waste out, even that, seemingly, the first or second colonic, the first or second awakening and release, you're going to feel it. You're not going to have to wonder. And that's the other thing with taking supplements and these, let's say, more naturopathic approaches. And naturopathy is really just allopathy dressed up in some sort of natural facade. Because
Mhm.
ultimately, if we're dealing, whenever we approach a symptom and try and correct that symptom, rather than looking to the original cause and going back to the cause that we're speaking about now, not the cause that even, I see a lot in functional medicine. People get really excited about functional medicine. Okay, great. It's not the traditional medical model, but it's still far, far, far away from getting to the core cause, which is what
Mhm.
we're talking about right here.
Mhm.
So, all the functional medical approaches are still going to be allopathy dressed up as naturopathy to some degree, and that's never going to help, because we're not going to get to the core problem. We're still going to be decaying. And when
Mhm.
people really finally equate the waste matter, the toxic accumulated waste matter, with decay, with rot, that's when the penny hopefully will drop, and I'll be like, oh wait, I see. So if I don't, and I'm doing this longitudinal study on myself, which is basically to prove that a rot free body is a body that's not going to age typically.
Mhm.
And yes, I still live in the world, and there's incoherence around me. There are things that I have to mitigate and neutralize, um, but ultimately, I've been removing the decay, preventing the decay, removing the decay I accumulated, and preventing the accumulation of additional decay for the last 25 years, and all in this longitudinal study to prove that ultimately it is the connection, that waste is decay and decay is aging. And that's why, and I did a long podcast on, or kind of broadcast rather, on Brian Johnson, his whole approach, the whole anti-aging approach that he has, where he's taking all these pills every day, and he goes to sleep at 8 o'clock, and he only eats in the morning, and the whole shebang. But there's no talk about waste removal. If the decay stays in the body is going to age in a way that is what decay does. Rot is rot. If it's not removed, if you don't take the rot out, if you have an abscess in your tooth or in your mouth, and an abscess tooth, I should say, and you try and just cover it over, you can take all the colloidal silver you want in the world, and it's still going to be a rotten tooth. And there's a point when you have to remove the rot,
Mhm.
and there are lots of things we can use to support this process. Doesn't mean that we can't use, I call them pathogen eviscerators, things that will natural tools that will kill off rogue parasites and viruses and bacteria, and fungus and all this. We want to use those, but only in conjunction with removing the waste, with
Mhm.
removing the rot. And when we do that together, it's magical. And we also, I want to keep going, but I've got
It's so
lots of things.
I know, it's so magical, and what I want people to understand is that this isn't a diet. That's what I think a lot of people when they hear me talk about it, like, oh, like, they think I'm trying to do keto or you know what I mean? Like, it's like a thing, and I'm like, what I want people to understand is that this is a full consciousness shift. Like, this is a paradigm shift from a different reality in which has caused obstruction, distortion, illusions, and has been a breeding ground for parasites and handing over your power. And what Natalia is talking about is not just, hey, I figured out this new diet. She's really explaining this is actually how the body functions on a physiological level, a biological level, and a spiritual level. And here are all the components that we need. So the obstruction isn't, oh my gosh, you're eating all the wrong foods. It's about learning what flows through the body so that you can have the intelligence of light and God, the supreme light flowing through you to maintain your sovereignty and your highest amount of power. And the way that Natalia has this most beautiful contraption called the Enlightener, which you can do your own colonics at home, which I on and off was introduced to colonics about 5 years ago. And it was just all the different colonics people that I've been to have been like, you just need 5 and then you're good. Like, you just need to clear the colon, or like, it just needs to be hydrated and then you're good. And it just never every time I would be done with that colonics person, I'd be like, this isn't resonating. Like, this doesn't make sense. Why would I only need 5? So I want you, the listener, to think about, you have had an entire life of eating different types of food that are stuck within the body. And I also see largely in the community of like women wanting to do like a 1 week parasite cleanse and thinking that they've cleared all obstruction in the body. And I'm like, you guys, I get that that's the other thing of like, we just need a few supplements, we just need to do a few enemas, and then the parasites are cleared. And if you think about your body, like if you have food that's rotting in the back of your fridge, like it's just sitting there rotting, there's no life force moving through those vegetables that are rotting. And then eventually, if it's there long enough, like you will have fruit flies or maggots. Like, so that's what's happening internally in our body, is that this rot is staying there. And then it's a breeding ground for more parasites. And then people think, there are so many companies like, if you just take these supplements and do this for 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, then you're good to go. And even with all the natural doctors and different, I have done the gamut. I have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on supplements. The comparison to the cleansing lifestyle that Natalia has taught me has blown it out of the water. Like, you would be blown away by the amount of bugs, parasites, and worms that have come out of my body, and I do the Enlightener every day. Like, I don't, and it's, so that's what I want to paint this picture of. It's not just, oh, come and do this. Natalia's not saying just come and be with me for a month and learn this. Like, this is a full paradigm shift that will literally change your life. Like, I just want everyone to know, like, your energy levels, your clarity, your well-being, your capacity to hold more love and light exponentially expands. Anyway, so tell us, Natalia, about like the removal process and the parasites. And I think that I really love what I've learned from Natalia too. If you think about a parasite, it is feeding off of you. It has its own little intelligence. So there are bugs inside of us feeding off of our life force. And anyways, Natalia, give us a little overview on that. You have so many good things to say about that. I just want to there's so many things to talk about. I'm so excited about it listening, but go ahead.
No, I love the way you're articulating it all and expressing it. It's just so beautiful. And I know the very feeling. All right. Well, I mean, the thing is that parasite is broken down into parasita, which is sita is to eat, and para is alongside. So they're eating alongside you, which is basically eating at your table, eating you. But one of the reasons parasites are so abundant in the human body today is because we have all these heavy metals and nanoparticles, and they actually are part of a process of breaking those down. So in a way, you could think that maybe there's something good to it. It's not really, good, not so good, but the the point is we need to remove the heavy metals and the parasites together. And we do that with this simple awaken and release equals cleansing approach. So there's nothing that we're not going to remove that we need to remove through this approach. So, for example, whether it's rogue pathogens, parasites, fungus, all that jazz, I mean, yeast like candida, all of it. I mean, anyone who's had any issue with anything across the spectrum of these kinds of
Even
pathogens.
mold,
Yes,
right?
100%.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. So what happens is whether it's the pathogens or it's radiation or chemicals, glyphosate and all this stuff that's around us, all whether, you're if I've sort of believed in chemtrails, I definitely believe that they've been spraying things. I can smell it all the time, especially when I cross the bridge into West Palm Beach. I smell it all the time. So we're breathing in a ton of stuff that, whether it's cadmium and barium and aluminum and mercury, it's definitely a lot of stuff we shouldn't be. And what we consume through the lungs, by the way, is going to go into the gut because the organs are helping each other filter. And the cleaner your large intestine is, when that's open, then the organs that are receiving poisons from other places, like through breathing, for example, into the lungs, can dump those poisons into the colon, and we can sweep them out, which is changes the ball game entirely. Because a lot of what cleansers are dealing with in the modern world now is they've done their foundational cleansing, but they're still living in the world like I am. And so we need to keep the organism purified through the continuation of colon cleansing, even if our diets are great and we've removed so much and we've come so far. Unless we're going to go in and live on a mountain somewhere away from the world, we're going to be consuming these things. It's often basically the matrix world, the artificial world, cities,
Mhm,
suburbs, etc., are off gassing all this
mhm,
stuff. And maybe you've had a rug that you've brought home that you smell that textile smell on it. Okay, we're living in that. Okay, there's off gassing. And so what was the point there? So basically all of these things that we're exposed to are going to be removed through the elimination channel of the colon through this irrigation through the colonics. But we have to awaken it with the alkalinity. The alkaline substances, these electron-rich foods and electron-rich air too. I mean, if you go, being in nature is so important because we're going to breathe that alkaline energy and that alkaline air into the body, and that's going to help our blood also become more alkaline. The more alkaline we become, the more we can dredge up this waste, and this waste can be prepped. It's like T-ball. It's like you put the awakening is putting the ball on the tee, and the colonic is knocking it out of
mhm,
the ballpark. And it's same with another way to look at it is, and actually, let me finish this thought first. So radiation, chemicals, nanoplastics, heavy metals, parasites, pathogens of all sorts, and the food waste itself, and all of the offshoots of the pathogens too, because remember that they're expanding their colonies at all times and they're migrating at all times and they have their own waste matter. So think about it's not just your waste and the parasites feeding on it, it's their waste. Like we don't, how gross is that? We don't want their waste. They're like using us as a toilet for their body, for their existence. So, but we have this magical solution, which is we can get it out, awaken, release, we get it out. And so yeah, so essentially the cleanser who's doing it this way, who's doing what you're doing, Katelyn, can be fearless because we're not worried about all these things we might be exposed to. I don't freak out about that. I think it's abominable that there's, this stuff in the air and that we've been given this structure in which to live our beautiful human experience. There's something really wrong about that. But I don't live in fear at all about it because I know how to take care of it. So I get to keep myself far above water despite all the things that are poured into this world. I call it like the world being different to life, because it's the whirling world we talk about. It's the I don't want to overuse the matrix term, but this there's the artifice, which is the world, which is the matrix. Artifice, world, matrix. That's one thing, interchangeable. And then there's life, the network of life, the supreme light, creation, and they're different. So
Mhm.
nature, supreme light, the network of life, and life, of course, that is completely different and antithetical to the world, the whirling, worldly matrix, which is actually an offensive uh, construct to life. And
Mhm.
that's why we struggle so much, because we're natural, we are life, and we're put into, we've had this artifice poured into the mix. And that's what gives us so much pain and suffering. So we need
Yes.
to live lives that keep us in alignment with life as opposed to the world. And that's why so many people struggle as they're awakening. There's this sense of this is where the new age movement falls flat, because if we just think love and light, but we don't understand that there's something nefarious at play that's interrupted life, then we're just going to ignore that. It's more suppression. It's more,
Mhm.
okay, let's just push it.
It's more
What we don't
vitamin
see won't hurt
C
us.
on the landfill, like,
Exactly.
that's how
Exactly
I
right.
see it. Yeah, it's just like, "I'm gonna just take
Hmm.
more vitamin C," and, like, I have a landfill of waste inside of me.
Perfect. Yes, exactly that.
Mhm.
So if we ignore, if we don't, if we're ignorant, we're going to suffer.
Mhm.
If we have the combination of knowledge and the knowledge and passionate application, we're going to protect ourselves from that breakdown that the artifices would otherwise cause us. And we can experience true joy, which comes from embodying the supreme light.
Yes. It really is as above, so below type of thing. If you think about now, been eating acidic foods, but we've also been ingesting acidic environments, like she talked about, acidic trains of thought, belief systems. We were born into families that we've had traumatic acidic experiences that stick into our psyche, which is put into the subconscious mind. And that also mimics itself by putting waste into different pockets of our body. And so that's why I just feel like this work really mirrors someone who's really passionate about healing their mind, like coming into full wholeness. And like this complements it so well. There's so many women in in this community who will talk about doing a colonic session and having like just crying or laughing or having like an emotional release, because as we're releasing this waste within the body, we're also releasing the emotional, spiritual acidity that also represents that waste. So it's not only impacting us on a physiological level, but it's also impacting us spiritually and mentally. And I think that's
Uh,
been one of the funnest parts about it for me.
what you've just said is so important.
Mhm.
So what Caitlin's just expressed about the emotions that will leave, I want to just clarify that that's for a distinct reason. It's because the emotions are in the waste. So when you've consumed things over time with a certain, let's say, energetic signature, certain feelings. So let's do the obvious one, which is like the breakup with a boyfriend, grab the Haagen-Dazs and start spooning yourself ice cream. That sort of iconic cultural skit. So your feelings are going to be in the waste accumulation from the ice cream that you consumed on that occasion. So when you cleanse it, when you cleanse the residue from the food waste, you're actually going to be cleansing the emotional distress you felt at the time. Now, that's just a kind of a silly throwaway example, but it could be the the stress you felt around your parents' divorce, or someone, whatever it is in the person's life that I'm just throwing an example out there,
Mhm.
or some trauma that you experienced over time, or maybe you were just really unhappy for many years. Maybe you suffered from depression, or like, and what you consumed with that emotion can be released on the like with through the colonic, and with the release of this waste matter. So these dysfunctional, painful emotions are in the waste matter. And that's another reason why we feel so much better with every session, every release, because we're not just releasing dead waste. we're releasing dead waste enmeshed with all of these other things I mentioned, plus the emotional signature that goes with it, which brings us back to our true signal. You know, we want our unique supreme light blueprint signature, and we want that without any interference. Because the Oracle Delphi, that the saying in Greek, first know thyself. We can't begin to know ourself, our true self, if we're either obstructed or we're caught up in our personality self, which is the artifice. So there's a true self, which is like, think of it as your life light, and then there's the personality, which is the mask. It literally means mask. So we've come to think of ourselves as our personality and not as our true self, because that's part of the programming that keeps us engaged in believing in the matrix. It's our false ego. But that's all of that is keeping us from the true self. And once we get into contact with our true self, it's a whole nother layer of power, because then we're really embodying something so rarefied. And then we want to protect that, because it's that signal. Once you come into contact with your true signal, and then the I am presence, as I often call it, your true connection, like an umbilical cord to source, which you're actually embodying, but there's still a sort of sense of an umbilical cord there, which brings us into this form. Then you start to live not only with that, but for that. And that's when your life really improves, because in living for that, you start to see all the things that are out of alignment with it, which are underserving or unserving it, destroying that, your ability to have that embodiment. And then you start letting those things go, because you realize they actually don't have any value. They're just interrupting your existence. And as you let them go, you continue to upgrade. And then the coming into direct experience of knowing your own true light is a part of enlightenment. This is a very important part of enlightenment. One part is coming to see the matrix as it is, and knowing that life and the world are different and antithetical to each other, and mutually not in sync. And then another step is identifying your true self and noticing that, and realizing that is not the ego identification that you were brought into this world believing that you were, or that you came to believe you were once after you were born here. And then you start to really then the choice becomes, what do I want to live for? Am I going to go to the effort of refining my life so that I can exalt this truth of who I am, what I am, and what's real in me? Or am I going to know this but still succumb to the old ways because it's just easier? And that's like the most important choice you'll ever make.
Yes, I absolutely agree. The journey has been so fun. Are you okay on time,
Yeah,
Natalia?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, we're
I
good.
wanted to just tie it back to this, and then we can kind of finish it up with Natalia and I feel like could talk for 6 hours about, I'm like, there's so many threads that we could talk about. But for anyone still wondering, okay, like awaken, does that just mean that I eat vegetables? And Natalia, can you just explain the awakening process? Because I think that this is also such a beautiful, again, like we're using light-based foods, which means like they were grown by the light. They hold a frequency of the light, and that helps us awaken the waste. And my understanding is that, so what I do every day is I drink about 30 to 40 ounces of a green juice every day, and that is literally feels like I'm drinking sunlight, and it goes into the body, and then it goes into the different parts of the body, and it rehydrates the dried waste, and then it delivers it to the colon, and the colon is available now to be delivered all of the waste around the body, because now you've done enough colonics and cleaning out the colon that it can be used every day for the job that it was meant to use, and not just be a holding container for crap, literally. So anyways, could you speak to that a little bit so we can tie a
Yeah.
full bow on this beautiful conversation?
No, that's really important. And so the awakening is creating a process for yourself where you really love what you're eating, but it's also contributing a lot of alkalinity to your intestine, to your blood, because alkalinity is going to clean the blood, by the way. And it's so important, because blood reaches every single cell in the body. So if your blood isn't clean, you're going to have, this this blood going everywhere, which is going to harm everything. So we start to clean up the blood, we start to loosen the waste matter, and we start to hydrate, reconstitute the tissue at large, specifically, and especially, I should say, the tissue in the large intestine. So what Katelyn's talking about with her green juice, it's different to just drinking water, and she's not drinking something with powders in it. It's really important to understand that it's the extract from plants. It's the living extract from plants. So the lifeblood of a plant is in its fluid. The value of a plant is in its fluid. The fiber is useless. And there's two things that we do in this culture that are so erroneous. One is pushing a lot of water drinking and eating a lot of fiber. So fiber is just going to clog you up further. It's not to say that you shouldn't have. We'll get enough fiber. Have your green salad. You have some carrots. You're going to get some fiber. You get plenty of fiber. We don't need more stuff for the body to break down. We need less. So the green juice, you want to extract what's actually valuable in the plant and consume that, and then leave the rest. Don't burden the body with the rest. And if you take it in as a blended drink, you're going to diminish the quantity of lifeblood you can get from the volume, and you're also going to just prevent the substance, this green juice, from going to the cellular level really quickly. It's going to have to be digested, cause the body more work, and to hire it out more. So we want to remove that. And then the dietetics don't have to be perfect. And this is really important to remember. It's not about being vegan. It's not about being a raw foodist. I don't like labels. The whole purpose is like, let's get rid of the boxes. The boxes come, all these labels and things come from the matrix. Everybody feel like we're all made to feel like we need to identify as something.
Yeah.
No, like reject that. And then it's like, so then what do I consume? Well, what do you like to consume? What do you enjoy? If you love pizza and pasta, chances are you really like the sauce and the cheese. So get yourself a really great marinara sauce with super clean ingredients, and preferably goat cheese, high quality goat cheese, and then make a beautiful bowl of vegetables and put that marinara sauce and goat cheese on the vegetables, and you will have the most delicious meal. It's not to say that you can never have pasta again. It's just, if you start to think about what you really like to eat, there's a way to create, with an alkaline approach, the things that you enjoy. So that's one aspect of it. And you also don't want to go too clean too quickly. So if some of you will be very type A or very passionate, let's say, about doing the right thing with your health. So you'll be hearing alkaline is good, so let's do all alkaline. But that will cause too much to awaken at once, and we need to awaken and release simultaneously. So we want to just start to awaken and start to release. And as you release more, you can awaken more, but don't turn the dial on full scale onto alkalinity if you're not going to be able to release the amount that you're going to awaken, because then you're just going to feel awful. You're going to get symptomatic. You might get headachy. You might get some pimples. You might have what are called detox symptoms. I like to challenge that term, because when you're truly detoxing, you don't have symptoms. It's only if you're failing to detox that you have symptoms. So if you're awakening and not releasing, then you're going to have symptoms. So actually, detox symptoms is an oxymoron. So if you're starting to get symptomatic, it's because you're not detoxing. It's because you're trying to and it's not successful. It's stuck. So think of the word transition. You need to transition. Don't think of it in modern terms. Actually, I just caught that. But yes, we need to dietetically transition from what we were doing before. Consider what you really love, and then gently start to introduce the green juice. Green juice should not have fruit in it, by the way. Green juice is not carrot juice. Green juice is leafy greens, cucumber, romaine lettuce. I like dandelion. Like, that's my favorite combination is dandelion greens, cucumber, romaine lettuce, lemon ginger. And you can use stevia to sweeten, not Truvia, not only these other, but like the actual, like, legitimate pure stevia. And you'll have, and some people don't need it. I need the stevia. I find that guys typically don't really care about having it sweet. But if you like something sweet, I like the stevia in my juice, so I always
Me too.
I make a fuss about that. Okay, but so then you start to introduce these things. You don't change it all overnight. It's just gently. Well, where can I introduce more vegetables, raw and cooked, and vegetables that are not desirable raw? Don't eat them raw. I don't eat raw broccoli. I don't eat raw cauliflower unless it's turned into something like a cauliflower rice or something. It's clearly there's certain things that shouldn't be eaten raw. If you really like them that way, then by all means you may. But but we're talking about Eat the vegetables that you like raw, eat them raw, and then have cooked vegetables too. Because cooked vegetables will help move some of this matter through, will taper or temper, I should say, the awakening process. So you don't overly awaken, but you're not contributing anything that is detrimental either. So cooked vegetables are brilliant, and they should be in the diet every day. You can turn them into pureed soups. You can do so much. You take these vegetables, you can steam them, you can bake them, you can make them into soups. You can turn them into a blended thing if you want to. There's so much, and I've got
Mm-hmm.
many books with recipe sections, and that's what it's there for, because I was a super foodie before I got into this work, and I really wanted to enjoy the variety of flavors, and I wanted to celebrate life through the palate, even in the cleansing lifestyle. So
Mm-hmm.
there is documentation of the most delicious recipes you can possibly imagine. And I also didn't like a lot of ingredients because I was a busy mother of three. So the last thing I needed was to go and and have something with 10 ingredients in it. So everything's pared down, everything's really easy. And there's a lot that will inspire your own creativity, just give you ideas too. But so transition is super important. Introducing the green juice specifically the way we've just discussed it, and then making sure that what you awaken is released. So don't fall into the trap of, oh, I've cleaned my diet up, so I've done it. You're not
Yeah.
doing it. The actual cleansing. Remember, cleansing is the release. So awaken plus release equals cleansing. Without that release, it's not cleansing. Do not fall into that trap. This work on a physiological level is about the removal of waste matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it boils down to.
Yep. It's the most beautiful process. I just want people to think about food is like the number one way that we can get controlled. It's like there's so many emotional attachments. It's in my community and the women that I run with, it seems it's very easy for women to take apart religion, government, politics and be like, "Oh, this is feeling funky. This doesn't seem accurate." But when it comes to food, because it's something that we ingest and there's been so much um, emotional attachment to it our whole lives, it's truly, to me, the number one way that we stay in a lower frequency or a lower consciousness. And it can feel so scary. And I get that. And I want to honor that for all the women that are like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm feeling so overwhelmed, And it's just give yourself so much love and grace because you have grown up in a world that, like Natalia said, hasn't honored the truth of the body, that we have taken so many things as truth and to learn, to relearn, or to shift our consciousness and to shift our mindset around what it is we're doing here, which is not, like Natalia said, it's not vegan, it's not raw foodist, it's not it's not all these different things. It's truly a, a way to gain back your sovereignty, your power, your light, your authentic frequency in which you were born to shine in and feel in. And it simply is that. And when I started this process with Natalia almost a year ago, I just I knew I was very overwhelmed. I was like, I could feel it. And I was like, I know that this is exactly like God led me to this. And I know I'm going to do it. And I really attached myself. And you always said in your calls, consistency is perfection, something like that. Like just
Yeah.
consistency is all you need to worry about. And that's all. Every day I was like, I'm going to do the one thing. Just I'm going to eat one thing that I know is like made from the sun, made from the light, because I want to feed my body light because I feel like I'm lacking a reservoir of light that I feel that is my birthright. And that's how I went about it. And that's what really led me. And it just was easier step by step. And she has a coach in her community named Claire, and who I love so much. And I had some things that were still acidic that I was eating, but they brought me so much joy and they really enabled me to eat what I like, to do the process. When I knew that I could have my bar of chocolate, my dark chocolate, I knew that it was just my treat at the end of the day. Or if I knew I could always put goat cheese on my vegetables, I knew I could eat that vegetables because I love goat cheese. So it was really just choosing, like, I know that I can do this and this makes me feel good. And it's just been the most beautiful process for me. And I just can't, I want everyone to experience it. So Natalia, can you tell everyone where they can find you and anything that you want to offer to the community?
Oh, thank you. So nataliarose.com is my
Mhm,
website, and Natalia Rose Cleansing on Instagram. And yeah, I mean, I think, if just to come into the community and experience it, and, or, pick up one of the books to start. You can even get
mhm,
them at your local library. I'd like to make sure that this knowledge is available to everyone on every level, because it will set you free. It really will.
mhm,
It's a declogging process. That's really all it comes down to. And also just to remember that not to be fearful, because a lot of the thoughts that will come up to maybe stop you from the process might be, well, but what if I'm missing, this or the protein or all it,
mhm,
it's all part of the artifice. It's poured these erroneous ideas in order to keep us enslaved. We need to get rid of the obstruction, and all the things that your body needs to do, it will do. It has an innate
mhm,
intelligence, but that intelligence has just been blocked by all this obstruction and these cut threads, the incoherence, the impact, and the tangled threads. So we will untangle the threads. We will uh, restore the power from the impact, the shock. We will bring coherence through the harmony that we're reintroducing to the body steadily, consistently, as you said. And we will those threads, those that were cut, will be restored, will be made integral again. So
mhm,
it all happens at once. It's the easiest solution. We just have to remove the obstruction. And if you can
mhm,
just focus on that and not fall into fear, whether it's fear about introducing water to the colon, or fear about not, getting the food groups met, or what other things that you were taught when you were younger, just release that. No, allow yourself, and don't take my word for it, allow yourself to experience it yourself. And you'll see in a very short time, it will be abundantly evident that it's working for you. And then from that point on, you don't have to have any, you'll have experiential confidence, not some sort of idea of faith. It'll be experiential confidence. You'll know it's working, and you'll know how to continue. And what's also beautiful, and sorry, I get a little bit overly passionate about this,
no,
but
keep going, we love it.
one tends to find one's next steps as one goes. So don't get too worried about tomorrow.
Mhm,
Just be where you are today, allow the process to unfold, and you will get your next insights. You'll know what the next thing you'll need to do to integrate will be. It will come to you in real time. And if you are worried about your addictions to foods, and if we're honest, one of the reasons we don't change is because we don't know how we're going to feel without that thing, or we don't think we're going to be able to be happy or functional without that thing. Maybe it's some food that you've been eating for a long time. For me, I used to eat my weight in frozen yogurt. Like, it would be,
I love frozen,
back in the
yeah, I
day,
love
like,
frozen
yeah.
yogurt.
And I would think, like, what am I going to do without this? But it was never an issue, because the things that I was addicted to were leaving in the waste matter, and which removed the addiction to them. So it was sort of surreal to see that I wasn't actually attached anymore with the cleansing work to the things that I thought I would forever be attached to. So let the cleansing work show you what it can do, and then you be the judge, and be the lucky recipient of what will come next.
Mhm, and I know you brought up the protein, and I did want can you talk about it real quick, or do you need to go?
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Okay, so
Natalia just
basically,
dispels the
yeah,
protein myth, and this is the number one thing people talk to me about when they see the effects I've had. They're like, "But you're not eating protein," and it's very disturbing for people, and I get it, I
yeah.
get it. Okay, so go ahead, Natalia.
And also, I mean, I'm super strong, and I've, like, my physical integrity is, is I don't know, it feels pretty great. And
Yeah.
as I get older, and it doesn't seem,
This woman
yeah,
just turned 50. For anyone who will be watching the YouTube video, she just turned 50. I would feel so happy if I look like you right now, and I'm 35, so
you
okay.
you are golden.
Okay.
You're an absolute goddess. But yeah, I don't worry about aging at all. I don't worry
Mhm.
about my bones deteriorating. I don't worry about. I have no fear in terms of my physiological well-being, because I know that it's the acidity and the rot that causes deterioration. So if I don't have that, there's no problem. And I've tapered off some of my physical training. I used to do a ton of karate, weightlifting, all sorts of things, like, in the same day, because I loved the athleticism. So I've only recently kind of cut back on that, but that's a different story for another day. But I think that there are good reasons for women not to overtrain, especially as we pass a certain marker, because going back to actually the calorie myth and everything, we don't want to overextend and release our energetic stores.
Mm-hmm.
There's a point when that backfires. So that's not your question though. But just to set the tone, I am not interested in not being a powerhouse physically, and has nothing to do with protein. So protein basically is amino acids. And amino acids are in vegetables, they're in grains, they're in flesh, they're all over the place. But when we eat a flesh, in order to break that down into the amino acids that we need, we we basically have to, the flesh is not giving us the amino acids like as a, here's a just a contribution of amino acids, or here's your protein. It's just giving us flesh that has to be broken down into amino acids. So we don't need that. And that exhausts the body. That wastes our internal resources. It also, our precious vital stores of water, our internal stores, our hydration, it's plasma. It's different to just drinking water. We can't restore it by drinking water. So we don't want to take anything to the body that's going to be dehydrating. And that flesh is going to suck the water, your vital forces, from the body in order to just accommodate it, because it's now real estate in your body. So now you got to like water it, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. And so anything that that's why we don't want to eat super dried foods either, like those super dried strawberries, or there's so many things in the health food store that are not healthy at all, as you know, as you know. But anything that will dry the body, we don't want. So basically, in order to get these so-called amino acids that we presumably need, which is dubious, we have to take in animal flesh. The body has to break it down, pull these amino acids from it, and then it's going to store in the body and take our water and constipate us and contribute death to our body, because that's all flesh is. It's a dead animal. And we have to, like, why is it that we, and I'm not someone who says you can't have flesh anymore. I'm just saying, like, don't look at it as a life generator, because it's not. If you love a juicy steak, or you really want to tear your teeth into a burger, go for it if it makes you happy, but don't eat it because you think it's going to contribute something to your well-being. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a place for flesh in a cleansing diet. It's just how we combine it and how we coat it in the green juice and in the green vegetables in order to make sure that it doesn't cause harm, or causes the least amount of harm, let's say. And then, of course, it's coming in with the vibration of the fear of the animal. There are all these other factors that are problematic. And then there's one other factor now, is that because of the air, the soil, the water that the animals are being bred on, and the environment in which they're being raised, their biomass, their actual tissue itself that is being consumed by the person when they're eating it, is being flooded with the nanoparticles, the metals, the plastics, the forever chemicals. Let's not forget those, and on and on. So, and one more thing, and these animals are being raised largely on starches. So when an animal is eating starches, there's no animals in nature that eat starches. Okay, we've got our herbivores and we have our carnivores. We don't have this sort of, I don't know, baked potato eating, French fry eating kind of thing. So, but yet we have these animals now, they're all being raised on GMO corn and grain. So that changes the actual flesh quotient, let's say the matter itself, the fleshy flesh, from being exclusively the flesh to being starchy flesh. So fish that's fed on grain is going to be starchy. So don't think you're going to get pure protein from the fish you're going to eat, or the chickens you're going to consume, or because ultimately their biomass has been transformed. So it's toxic from all these things. They're toxic to us and they're consuming too. And then it's becoming starchy because of what they're being fed. So then you're going to eat that and you're going to think that it is what it is on paper, like this many grams of protein, and it's not. It's none of that. It's actually, you're eating something that's toxic, that has an incoherent frequency, which we want to rectify, remember, because that's one of the five fingers, and that is going to have possibly a lot of toxicity in it, and stay far, far away from any organ meats. That's a
Mm-hmm.
disaster. Those organ meats are going to be even more toxic. Anything that comes from a liver, you never want to consume that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I've never been able to take liver, even though a lot of naturopath doctors, people have been like liver, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. It's the detoxing organ of the body. Why would I chop it up and want to put it in my mouth? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's
Yep.
it's so good. It's just so good. Everything you're saying, I hope people are really feeling that. And what is also, I just looping back around to this last thing that Natalia said, is that when this dried waste is in your body, when this food gets dried, you literally, that's why it's also there's a water myth. Like a year ago, you guys, I was drinking 120 to 150 ounces of water per day because I just was so dehydrated. I would go to see my massage therapist and she would be like, Katelyn, I literally use a half a tub of coconut oil. Like your skin is just so dry. And I was like, it doesn't make sense. Like I'm drinking 150 ounces of water with electrolytes. And the moment that, like, within the first 4 months of my cleansing process, my water intake substantially decreased. Like, my massage therapist, I didn't tell her what I was doing, but she's like, what have you been doing? Your skin, like, I don't have to use near the amount of coconut oil when I massage you. And it really does, like, the foods that we eat take up so much life force that our bodies naturally have, and we have to, then we're inputting all these other things from outside of us to try to rectify the things that we're putting in us that we have been told like are healthy, that we've been told like
Mhm.
you should do this. And the protein one I think is the biggest one. It's just I can't even on Instagram anymore. It's like this, I need to have this amount for protein, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such
Yeah, and
a
these ingredients.
farce. Like
Yeah, and they age
my
so
yeah.
fast.
Yes, and that's what you need to understand is that Natalia said, like, what whatever the however much waste we have in our body will affect how pure or poisonous our blood is, which will affect when our blood is poisonous or when it has lots of stuff in it, it pulls from our bone marrow. So one of my mom's good friends, she's in her 60s. I was just recently talking to her and she was like, I was vegan for so long and I felt so good, but my bones are decaying. And so now I'm eating protein again and you just have to eat meat when you get older. And I just thought that's not true. It's because you have a lifetime of decay in your body and
Mhm.
you're literally your whole system is pulling from your bone marrow to just try to sustain itself. And anyways, Natalia is just a wealth of information. Her community is worth every dollar and is well worth investing into. It's so nice to have someone holding your hand, and her team they make themselves so accessible and so available so that you can feel so loved, so nurtured. Every question is answered, and the community has questions from like, if I one time I messaged Natalia, I was like, if someone asks you if they can eat a sweet potato one more time, God bless Natalia for answering that question about 500 times. Because you can eat. I mean, she's not like, she's never like, don't eat this. It's truly a spiritual process, and she straddles the world so well of physical and spiritual, and holds so many codes of the body, because when you can master the body, then you can ascend. And Natalia has really, I just feel like, embodied that and emulated that so well. And so I just want the whole world to be able to experience a taste of your work because it's life-giving, truly. It is life-generating, it is life-giving, and I am so grateful to you. Thank you for being rogue and trusting in your intuition and not succumbing to what the whole world says that we should be doing, and standing your ground, because we need more women like that in the world. And when you cleanse, that frequency comes online and you will know the truth and you will be able to stand in your power and you'll be able to say, I know what I know because I am God. I am connected to I am the light, and you will be able to emanate your frequency that will make our world so much better. And Natalia has done this for the last 25 years amidst so much chaos and so many people who probably are like, there's not enough scientific backup, I don't know, reports to back this up. But again, I'm just like, look at her. She is a living emanation of this work. And I am done taking advice from people who don't look healthy, but have books and little letters after their name, but they don't emanate the light that I want to do. And so that's really just thank you. I love you so much, Natalia, and your work. Thank you.
Oh, I love you too, Katelyn. I'm so appreciative. Your effusive energy, your golden light. It's just the world needs you right now, and
Mm.
it's such a blessing. Thank you.
Yes, and I will link everything below. And again, her community is well worth every dollar. So I really highly recommend that. And yes, well, maybe we'll have you back on again because I'm like, we didn't even touch so many things that I want to help other people understand. So, anyways, thank
Absolutely,
you.
be my joy.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. If this episode spoke to your heart, please share it with another woman on her journey. And until next time, stay rooted in your humanity and devoted to your becoming.